Live yet. It is now.
Yes, streaming live on YouTube. Cool.
Right. Can I say a very warm welcome from Table Tennis Scotland. Our first Zoom cast many months ago featured a European top 12 winner, a world ranked top 10 player, and a multinational champion and an MBE. And that was Jill Parker. Our final guest is all of the above and is the most recognised face in British table tennis over the past 50 years. A very warm welcome to Desmond Douglas.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Okay, as usual, we've got Matt. Matt will be doing picking up all your questions on YouTube and email, etc. And in the studio, if you like, or on Zoom with us is Elisa Khalid. Elisa, again, is a regular on this program. She is a national senior player. And we've also got Mark Lundberg, who is one of our national selectors and a national junior player. Okay, Des, have we got any birthdays?
Yes, I'd like to wish happy birthday to Mike Kemba and Jill Parker. Hopefully they all had a good day.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Des. Well, I'm going to go back to many birthdays ago. And in 1986, we talk about the top 12, the European top 12, and when there were players like Applegren and Volder and Grubber, and you won 11 matches, but didn't win it. Can you remember that one?
Yes, it was in Sweden, and it's never happened before where two players have got to the final, and it was like a final because we hadn't lost, and so the last game was a final, and it was against Waldner, and I lost 3-1 to Waldner. So yes, I think in the past I've had records like that, or very close to it, and still come nowhere near. But this time I was so close, and got pipped by Waldner.
Yeah, but what was remarkable, because she came back 12 months later and won it, and that's one of the things we often talk about: the ability to learn from your defeats, bounce back, and that must have been nerve-wracking because she sat on 10 wins, and your games had finished, and Grubber was playing against Waldner, and if you like, the whole of the top 12 relied on that result. Can you tell me how you was feeling watching that game?
Very nervous because one, I don't like other people sort of getting the result for me. I like to be in control of what I'm doing. But in that sort of situation, you've just got to keep your fingers crossed and hope that the results go your way, and they did. The two games I lost was to Grubber and Mazanov, Big Mazanov.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, really, although I won the event, the results match-wise wasn't as good as the previous year, which is unusual.
Yeah.
But I was just happy to win. I was just happy to win the top 12 round robin, or play all over the weekend. Very difficult.
It's the hardest tournament to win because, as I say, because there's no hiding place. You play the 12 best players in Europe, but it was a golden era when you were playing. There were no easy matches, were there? I mean, Waldner, Apple. Can you remember who played in that second top, or either of the top 12s?
Okay, the one I won it with, you start off with the player from your country. So I had to play Prino first.
Did you really?
Yeah. So you always have to, just in case you're trying to fix it, you see, you're playing at the end, and one person, can just chuck it. Yeah. So I played off with Prino first, and I was going pretty good. Grubber would always be a problem because the way he varied the game. So once I lost the game, I wasn't too sure then what my chances were. But from the beginning, you've got so many Swedes. You've got Apple, you got Waldner, you got Lind, you got Persson. To beat all those guys and to win the event, you've got to play out your skin. And my, I think my last game, I think it was Pearson I had to play. And once I beat Pearson, then I had to sit down and watch Waldner beating Grubber.
Wow.
So yes, it's a very, very difficult event. But when you're playing it, as I said, and you get off to a good start, you just got to try to keep the momentum going. Don't let the losses upset you, and just be positive.
Yeah. I mean, it's not unusual to win the event with 9 and 10 wins. It's incredibly unusual to win 11 out of 12 and not win it. It was almost like I think it was the Premier League last year. A team got 100 points and didn't win the league. It's just never heard of. So, so therefore, in 2 years in the top 12, you've won 21 matches out of 24. I mean, it's remarkably consistent, to do it 1 year and then to follow it up. Would you say that was you at your peak, Des, or was that just you playing well? Or would you say, yeah, in 1987, that was me at my best, or not?
That's hard to say that. I think it all started with Germany.
Yeah.
I think from there, that's when people started to notice me, and then you have probably about 3 or 4 good years where you've got to really make the best of it.
Yeah.
And that was part of the years really.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to come on to that because when we had Nicky Jarvis, I've spoken to both Donald Parker and Nicky Jarvis. They both said that you made incredible growth spurts in table tennis. Don was saying in your last year as a junior, which I'll talk about, and Nicky was saying that you was a good player, you won the nationals, but then you went to Germany and you came back at a different class. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Where and how did the young Desmond Douglas start playing table tennis?
For me, it all started at a play centre, like a big hut, where you could play a lot of little sort of sports. And it was just over the road from Aston Villa. So once you came out of Aston Villa, you went into Aston Park, and there was the play centre. And you could play many sort of little sports within that little hut. One of them was table tennis. And so a load of us, we didn't have bats, piece of wood or a wooden brick, anything just to have a hit over the table. So a lot of us would gather around the table, play a game up to 11, or play donkey first. And once you've used up your 6 lives, the ONKEY, you 2 left in the final, you play a game up to 11. And then you'd all pile around the table and start the event again. So that's how I started.
Yeah. Who spotted you, Des, from going from that youth club donkey setup? They won't remember. Did you have Elisa and Mark? Did you ever play donkey? That's what we always should do it. You should collect the letters if you want the points. But anyway, come on. So, Des, how did you then progress from that? Were you spotted by somebody? Did you join the Birmingham YMCA? Or how did you get from there to the next step?
Well, the next stage was in the dinner time at school. I was better at football and cricket, but in the dinner time when it was raining, we put the tables on top of the desks because I didn't have legs. Blackboards behind me, and that's how I started to play in the dinner hour. And then from there, I started to spend more time playing table tennis. A chap called Mr. Adrian Evans at the Brandwood School over in Kings Heath. Then I used to go over there and play for the club there, and slowly developed. And then I entered various sort of local competitions, Sports Argus event, and I think I beat this chap Bob Brown in a
I beat him.
In the Sports Argus event when I was about 15. And then I think when I was 15, people began to sort of say that, maybe, I've got a decent future. But I was so young because at that time, 15, you had people like Bob Broadmoor, Jeff Nicks, Stephen Taylor, the late Bob Broadmoor. He was very good.
Yeah, he was struck by lightning once. He played golf.
Correct. On that same day, myself and Andy Barden, we were at the Middlesex. We were playing golf on that same day. But we saw it was getting dark, and we decided to call it a day. And then the next day at the tournament, we read he'd been struck by lightning. So
Wow.
yeah, that's how fate is. But yeah, that's how I sort of started and sort of developed. And then from when I was 15, then it was a matter of sort of going down the YMCA a lot after work, because I was working, you see, at 16, and then going down to the YMCA and just trying to develop my skills down the YMCA, and later on against people like Derek Mont, Paul Judd,
Cool.
that sort of thing. But it took a long time. These guys have been playing a lot longer than I had, so it took me a long time to sort of, develop and have the confidence to go forward.
Yeah. Sorry, nearly all of when we spoke to Brian Keane and one or two others, the YMCA was a common thread. Anybody wanted to learn to play table tennis, they went down to the local YMCA. And can you remember you was mentioning about your school teacher? Was there any other people who gave you help? Because there wasn't that many coaches in those days, was there?
No.
So who were the people who sort of helped you a bit?
There's people like Richard Habgood, a very good close friend. He used to take me to tournaments a lot and help me. And then when he couldn't do it no more, Alan Murray, he took me to tournaments.
Yeah.
And then from there, once I developed, then the Germany situation came up.
Yeah.
And I was spotted at the 77 Worlds in Birmingham.
Yeah.
NEC. Well, that time I was still working. And after the tournament, that's when they asked me would I like to go and play professional table tennis. And that was a massive decision because.
Okay, if I come back to that, because what I want to do is you're starting to get good. You was never really a cadet, were you? Not
no,
really.
I didn't. No, I didn't play. Yeah, I didn't play cadets. No.
Yeah, amazing. And then then you made this incredible, like Don Parker was saying, that he's same age as you used to compete against him, and then all of a sudden you improve no end, so much so that obviously you won the national junior title, right. But you beat Don, didn't you, in the final?
That's right. I did.
Yeah, he's never forgiven you for that, Des. But then you went to the European Youths and got to the final.
Right.
I mean, how did you not? I mean, you weren't. How can you just go to a European Youths and get to the final? When can you just?
I think when people don't know you, and you're at a pretty good level, it's probably a little bit easier because nobody expects you to do anything. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
But I went there and I played really well. I played well in the teams. I beat Stelwag, Birisho, Torcel, who I beat in the teams. And I lost to him in the final.
You did,
So and me and Linda Jarvis, Linda Howard, we won the mixed. So there I was disappointed to lose to Torcel after beating him in the teams.
Yeah.
But like I said to you, once people see how you play, they decide that they then know how to work out the tactics and how to play you.
Yeah.
So the first time they weren't too sure, but the second time they'd already worked out a plan. You see, so it was a little bit more difficult the second time. But yes, I mean, I only played 2 years in the juniors.
Wow.
So to go, the first year was number 6. The second year I was number 1. Yeah. So to go in those 2 years and then to the European, that's right. I don't know how I did it. I just think it was just practice.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah. I'm just about to hand over to Elisa first and then Mark. But when you say you played a bit of football and cricket, what I do remember, you was on Superstars at cricket, but they didn't change the bowler for a left-hander, did they, on that bowling machine?
I think so. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, if any of you follow cricket, Elisa and Mark, can you remember Superstars or not?
Oh, barely.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sure some of the older viewers will. All the top sportsmen went on Superstars, and Des was on, and he chose cricket as one of his activities. But it's left-handed, and the bowling machine, it was set for the right-hander, wasn't it? They didn't change it for you. But anyway.
Dave, I was rubbish. Dave.
Well, yeah.
I was trying to play myself in like Test cricket rather than doing the runs. And then on the rowing, because I've never sort of rowed, the police were waiting for me by this old wreck. And being left-handed, I was pulling the oar to the wrong side. So I was going towards a policeman. Everybody else were going straight. So I ended up with the policeman. So I didn't finish the race.
Yeah.
So it was just rubbish.
Yeah. But okay, good. Okay, so we've got you up to European Youths, and I'm going to hand over to our youngest panelist tonight, our very own Elise. What have you got for Des?
So what made you actually decide to pursue table tennis as a full-time career and go professional?
I think in the beginning I wasn't sure what to do, because at school I was mainly good at football and cricket. Table tennis was just like a pastime. But then once I saw I was getting better and better, and I started to play county, then national, and then, as I said, once I played in the World Championships at Birmingham, I was still working, and the Germans asked me to play full time. I think that's when I sort of made the decision: should I spend the rest of my time working at the bus garage for the rest of my life, or should I take a gamble and do something I love? So I took the gamble.
Were you supported by your family with that? Were your parents happy with that decision?
I think they just supported me. They weren't sports people as such. My father liked the horses. I know nothing about the horses. So I think they just encouraged me to, I was keeping out of trouble and I was doing something positive.
Thanks.
Mark?
My turn. There's just on the technical side of the game, sort of doing my research and remembering you from when I was young. I think if any observation of your game, it's how you control the table tennis ball. It seemed to be that on that racket you had full control. What's your thoughts on that? Was that the way that you decided to get better at the game, understanding the control, and then basically counteracting an opponent? Just your thought process of getting to that professional top level and your success.
I think when I first started, my whole idea was to be at the table. I had to be the controller and to make everybody run around. And in those days, the backhands weren't very good. So my idea is if everybody's a righty, I will just play down the line, backhand. If they run round, I play cross court. And then the table opens up. When they play back cross court, I play down the line to their backhand. That's a weak shot because their backhands are rubbish. Now I can do what I want. So my whole perception of everything is to control the rallies and to stop you from getting in your big shots. I want to contain you, but not too much, but enough to stop you from getting in your good shots. Then I'm controlling the game. Then I'm trying to get the angles and make the table as wide as possible so that you have to run a lot to play the shots. And at some point, there's going to be a gap in the table. You can't just keep playing A to B. There has to be a gap. When I see that gap, then it's my turn. And that's how I sort of try to, play the game. I'm looking for the easiest options. But the book won't tell you to play my style. My style is a very unusual style because, as you said, I'm very close to the table, quick reflexes. But that's how I develop my game. And not the top spin, which is the fashion.
Right. What about, sort of given those observations to younger players, do we think the younger players that have been up and coming maybe in the last 20 years or after your era thought enough tactically the way that you do about table tennis? Do you think there's a weakness, or do we think that actually the full-blown attacking, that modern style, that's the way they need to pursue?
It all depends on the individual, but I think the coaches don't let the players think enough. The way you play your game, they said it reflects your personality. If the coach is doing all the thinking for you, you're not really playing. You're just doing as you're told. It should be a little bit like tennis, where you're thinking for yourself and playing the way you want to play. I think that's the best way to play and do what you're good at. We all can't be a fantastic forehands or whatever, but you have to develop the game so it suits your way of playing, your way of thinking. It's you. When you're playing, it's you. It's not somebody else. You shouldn't be sort of like a robot and be playing, what the coach says. You should be doing it yourself and develop your own skills. Everybody's different.
I think Dave's been saying that since March, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah.
With any advice that's been coming in for all young players is thinking for your advice, the coach can only do so much. Thanks,
Yeah.
Des. Dave?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what I was saying, Des, on a few of these Zoomcasts is that I'd like to see some junior tournaments like tennis where the coaches are not allowed, and the players, because sometimes you get an imbalance. You'll get one youngster who doesn't have anybody helping him, and then the other youngster's got about 10 people helping him. But I'd like to see whole tournaments where the kids simply play like tennis, and then at the end of the day, they'll go and see their coaches or parents. Yes. and analyse. I tell you what, just while we're on coaches, just would like your thoughts on at national level. You probably had Les Greswell. Would he be your first coach?
Yes.
Brian Byrne?
Yes.
Peter Simpson?
Yes.
And then Donald Parker?
Yes.
Yeah. Were they all different? How do
yes.
you find them all?
Very different.
Yeah.
Les Greswell, eccentric.
Yeah.
Very eccentric. Trevor Taylor went to the World's Novi Sad. I think he was in 73. Trevor Taylor played Japan. First Englishman to win 3 against Japan.
Yeah.
Fantastic. He then plays against Austria, and I think he loses 1 or 2 games. Greswell thinks he isn't trying, so then sends him home on the next plane. So you've got that, right? Then you've got Brian Byrne. He was more of a physical chap.
Yeah.
Everything very physical. I think he sent us out on an orienteering thing, miles away from Lee Green. Yes, that's right. So me and some of the other players, we caught the taxi back. We saw these guys, and we ducked down because we were in the taxi, and then we said we walked back, sort of thing. Then you had Pete Simpson. Now, because he came from the lower leagues.
Yeah,
there was a lot of problem with the older players.
Yeah,
because they didn't sort of respect him that much, because they thought, who is this guy? He's never played at a high level. How can he tell us how to play?
Yeah.
And there was quite a lot of friction with the older players. Yes, it happened at the Worlds in 77. In the end, Brian Merritt had to give Dennis advice because Peter Simpson couldn't do it. He wouldn't be allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Don, former player, he was probably the easiest because he understood you more because he'd been through the problems that you had mentally or whatever. So I think it was a bit easier to relate to Don than probably the others. So out of all of them, I would say Don.
Yeah. Was Don your final national? It probably would have been, wouldn't it?
Yes. We grew up together, so he understood me a bit better. He understood the problems a bit better. Really, which is important for a coach.
Yeah, good. Right, Elisa, again, before we kind of move on.
So what actually made you, what do you think made you excel in table tennis? Like, what was that kind of factor that made you start doing well?
I think as soon as I went to Germany, I think within that season, I'd become a much, much better player. I think within 12 months, I came back and people couldn't recognize me because I'd improved that much. So I think if you can play against better players day in and day out in that sort of environment, in theory, you should improve. And I think that's what I couldn't do at home. I couldn't play day in and day out against somebody better. I got to a stage where I couldn't get any better. I had to leave. And that's what I did. And that's what made me even a better player still.
Okay.
We can kind of move on because you won the Nationals for the first time, as I was saying, beat Nikki Jarvis. I think your first final, wasn't it, against Nikki?
Yes, Nikki beat Dennis.
He did. What a game that was.
Yes, there's a big argument. Yes.
Yeah, we actually covered that, didn't we, Mark, on the Zoomcast, where the umpire thought Nikki hadn't got the ball up. And,
Correct.
Even though he lobbed it up, he actually had got the ball up. So there was a delay for about 10 or 15. It was a fantastic game. Then you played Nikki, win your first national title. I'm going to move on to Germany, but can we? You've won the nationals, the senior, 11 times. Did it get harder? Did it get easier? What was your feeling coming back and playing in the nationals year after year after year?
the first time when I beat Nicky, I was working. I wasn't full time.
That's right. Yeah.
I didn't turn full time until 77.
Yeah.
So that's also is very difficult to do. You know, almost like an office worker trying to beat a pro. You couldn't do it today. But when you keep winning title after title, after about 2 or 3 times, you've got to think of new ways to sort of motivate yourself.
Yeah.
Because the people you are beating are almost the same people all the time.
Yeah.
So you've got to find ways now to sort of beat them better than you did before.
Yeah.
That becomes difficult because if you keep beating everybody 3-love, if it's up to 5, then you've got to say, can I beat these guys under 11 3-love? You've got to find new motivations. And in the end, there was so much pressure in the end. When I lost to Alan Cook, the final that I lost, I'd been in 10 finals on the trot, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I felt that final, I was under so much pressure because it'd never been done before. Yeah. And it was, in some ways, it was a relief to lose because all the stress, all the pressure. And then the next year, I think I came back and won it. Yeah. But yeah, you've got, the more you keep winning, the more pressure, you've got to know how to handle it. But you've got to keep finding new ways of trying to get better and better. That's hard when you're number one because there's nobody to chase.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I often tell the tale when you lost to Dave Hanna.
Yes, I remember that.
Stuart Palmer, who'd been playing table tennis for about 15 or 20 years, he said, "Do you know, it's the first time I've seen Des lose." Because you're just not lost on British soil, had you? Yeah, you know, in any competition, for about not just the nationals, but in any competition. Yeah, so that was incredible. So you play Nicky, and at that time, Nicky was saying that, you know, Des was the better player, but only just. He went to Germany. Correct. This is what Nicky said a few weeks ago, Nicky Jarvis. He said, Des came back a completely different player after 12 months, and he was miles better than all of us. So what happened? You say that was because she was playing better players, better competition. But could you feel yourself improving, Des?
It was only when I came back and I played the English players.
Yeah.
Yes, but also in Germany. When I went to Germany, I had to prove myself. Yeah. And when I started to win the Bundesliga matches, I was winning the majority of them. Yeah. So then I knew that I was getting better. To go to a foreign country and start beating players in the Bundesliga, which was a tough league, then I knew I'd become a better player. But when I came back to England to play, I could see then the gap that I'd improved so much. And also in that first season, when I played the Europeans in Duisburg, and I won 18 out of 18.
You did, yeah.
And that sort of, you know, told me in my head, I'm up there with them because I've come from nowhere, and I'm beating international players who have been playing a lot longer than I have. So that's when I knew that I'm up there with them.
Yeah, it was interesting because you know, we've to an extent it's a level below. We've had similar with Gavin Rumgay and Ewan Walker, where they were clearly the best player of their generation. But having spoken to Nicky, they also felt under pressure in the team event because they knew you was going to win your 3 and they had to win 1 or 2, you know, so they was under a different pressure. But which will go to Duisburg. So as you say, he's been playing in the Bundesliga for a couple of years for Dusseldorf, wasn't it? He played for, and then back to Germany, Duisburg. Team event, 18 out of 18, and you got to the semi-final of the singles. That was the only game you lost in 1978, and you'd already beaten Jon, hadn't you, in the team event? But yeah, so it was a fantastic tournament. But was your feelings at the end of it, well, let me know, I've had a fantastic tournament, or was it, you know, where Jon, you didn't play so well in the team event, but then it was probably a bit fresher in the individual.
I thought in the teams, there was a lot of pressure because you've got to win your 3.
Yeah.
And you've got to play the quick sequence, 3-5-7.
Yeah.
So that means you've got to get your quick three in to give the team a chance. Unless you do that and you win your three, it's very difficult for the team to win. So I was under enormous pressure. Because as I say, if I'm winning three, these guys really have only got to win one between them, one each, and then we won. But I thought if I was going to lose a game, I should have lost it in the teams, because you cannot go through the whole event winning 18 matches and then expect to do the same in the singles. It's too much. So at some point you have to lose a game. It might have been better to lose the game, one game in the team, and have won the Europeans. But I tried to play too well, and in the end I played maybe 22, 23 games, and I only lost one. So yeah.
Right, is Des froze or have I froze?
Yeah, I think Des is frozen.
Yeah.
He'll come back.
Team.
Oh, you're back again, Des.
Yeah. So I'm maybe, as I said, maybe I played a bit too well. It peaked a bit too soon.
But it was a fantastic achievement. It was a fantastic. Shall we take I think we've had a Zoom question. Is Elisa going to read that, or Mark, or Lisa?
Yeah, you go for the first one.
Okay. So from Ben Hart, there's two questions. Who was your favourite player as a junior? And the second question is, if you weren't a professional table tennis player back then, what would you be?
Oh gosh, I think as a junior, right, when I started, one of the best players I've ever said, English players, is Trevor Taylor.
Yeah.
Because he was number one, and he was so smooth, both sides, just like a Rolls Royce, very smooth. And I mean, fantastic player. If it was a world player, it'd probably be Stellan Bengtsson. He was world champion at 18, and everybody loved the Swedes. They wanted to play the way the Swedish played. Another fantastic player to win the Worlds at 18. And I think when I was younger at school, I left without any exams. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but at first I thought I could be a bricklayer. So I went to some interviews. I didn't get the job in the end, but when I look back, I'm thinking, I hate the cold, I hate the snow. Why would I want to be a bricklayer? But that's what I tried to do. But no, so I ended up working for the West Midlands Passenger Transport. Trying to be a mechanic on the buses.
Wait, I'm just going to stop you. A bit of bias there, Des. You've gone for Trevor Taylor and Stellan Bengtsson, two left-handers. Is there any reason? Hey, these left-handers all stick together, don't we? We did a course on left-handed. We ought to measure on that one. We had a Zoom cast purely on left-handed, and you've just picked out two left-handers. I mean, Trevor Taylor was a wonderful player. It was a wonderful player.
Yes.
Okay, any more questions, Elisa?
Sorry, we've got the one from Graham Stevenson that I think is quite good. It was always thought you had very fast reactions, but apparently when you tested your reactions, you're actually very slow. Is this true?
Yes. I think that they did a test down in Sussex somewhere at the university.
Yeah.
Lisa Lomas, the defensive player, she had quicker reactions, but they said I had better anticipation, which I found that was unusual. I thought I had the quickest, but Lisa Lomas had quicker.
Yeah.
So
I think that's where a lot of people did get Des wrong. His reactions were good, but his anticipation was unbelievable. Des, what the players used to say when they played against you, they would go backhand to backhand, and you was always there waiting. And then they'd think, I know, I'll switch in. But you're still always there waiting. So there was always under pressure because you was, they never caught you out of position. And it was the anticipation. They felt they could never get on top of the rally because your reading of the game was so good.
Yeah, as I said before, I'm trying to keep them close to the table.
Yeah.
Generally, they weren't as quick as me. So even although they were playing the backhand to backhand, it wasn't really quick as my backhand.
Yeah.
And I just thought if I could contain them, and as I said, stop them from getting their strong shots in. But also, Dave, most people play cross court.
Yeah.
So I knew at some point to play down the lines are so small. So everybody tends to play cross court. Very few people play the lines. So if you know that, you know most of the rallies are going to go that way.
Yeah. That's it. Well, no, one of the points Des is making there is when you go diagonally, that is 10 foot 6 inches. I don't know if you've ever worked it out. When you go down the line, it's 9 feet. So there's, I don't know what that is in new money, but that I'm just saying in old money, it was 10 foot 6 is a diagonal and 9 foot is down the line. Right. Have we got the quick fire up for Des, one of you?
I don't have it, Dave, but I can bring it up just if you want.
Okay, I'll get Lisa to ask Des a question or one from YouTube. Elisa.
There's another one from YouTube, from Ben Hart again. Do you think that you reached your potential in your table tennis career?
Yeah, I would say very close to it. Yes, I would say so. I mean, to even get better still, my only regret is when you see the youngsters today, what they've got, the facilities. Like we had the national centre at Nottingham, and then we had one at Sheffield. You could play day in and day out. I didn't have that. I think that was fantastic. And I think they had the psychologists and the physios. I didn't have that. So the other things I had to do myself. So I would say with what I had, I was, probably very close to my peak, But I think if I had those things, what these youngsters have got, then it's possible I could have probably even played better. Other players could have done the same. But England, it isn't that sort of country. It's more the big sports, your football, your tennis, your golf, that sort of thing. So a lot of finance and resources go to those sort of sports rather than sports like table tennis.
Okay, can we go back to Germany now? We touched on how much you improved, and you was playing better players, and you was playing in the Bundesliga, which at the time was the league to play in. What was the day-to-day like? Were you living in a flat? Were you living with friends? Were you eating well? Can you just give us a sort of a rundown of your time there?
Right. I stayed mainly with the family. Hans Knowlton, I stayed with his family quite a while. Yeah. Then later on, Ralph Vosik.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was just staying with the various players. It was more of like a team club. So they wanted me to get to know everybody. So I would stay a little bit with each person. So if there was a match this weekend and a match next weekend, I would stay. But if there was a gap, I'd go home because of the training camps or internationals. Yeah. So I was constantly traveling. I didn't speak German, but they spoke very good English.
Yeah.
And everything was spot on. The aeroplane, if the Lufthansa pilot said he'd arrive there, it had arrived exactly the same. Yeah. And someone would meet me either to stay with the family or to go to the hotel. Everything was the German way. The food was all right. I found it was quite serious people. The mentality is different mentality. I think the English, we laugh at anything. The Germans are a bit more serious. They work very hard, and it's different mentalities. I could never be a German. It's just a total different mentality.
Did you keep good health, Des, while you was there?
Good what, sorry?
Good health. Were you poorly or?
Never had a problem. We had our own doctor. We had our own physio. So no problems whatsoever. No.
Yeah. Mark, have you got the top?
I've got the Shawfire, but a question of my own.
Sure.
Is Des, I just wanted to get your observation of I'm going to call it the rise of the Swedish national team in the sort of 80s going into the 90s, Waldner, Appelgren, Besson, all these guys we've talked about. I wanted to get your take on it, being surrounded by these players, playing against them in Europe top 12s and their mentality of how they overtook China in the sort of team event in the 90s.
For me, it was the dream team. You saw these young players coming up in different eras, but not far behind each other. And to see the way that they developed is fantastic. And they all had different styles. This is what was so awkward. So if you were going to play the Swedes, they could have 3 or 4 or 5 different players, different styles, and that made it awkward for the opponents. But for me, the camaraderie and their will to win was it was amazing. It was amazing, really. And there was that period in the 80s where, it's a fantastic team, really unbelievable team. Waldner, Appel, Persson, Lind, Ulf Carlson, Ulf Bengtsson. Fantastic team.
Brilliant. No, great to hear your thoughts on just being around.
Probably the great European team, although obviously you spoke about your game with Jonia. The Jonia, Gerge and Klampar, was that, how did that compare to the Swedish team, do you think?
I think the Swedish team probably had more of a variety.
Yeah.
But 79 in Pyongyang, North Korea, Hungarians beat China in the final. Yeah. And that was a fantastic performance. But they had similar styles, but all very powerful top spins. Klampar was a bit different because he played a little bit more over the table, but deadly the same. But yeah, it was similar. But I think the Swedes were better because the variety and they had more players.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Okay, have you got the quick fire up for
Des?
The
quick fire that's not so quick.
This is a quick fire, Des. You've got to answer these questions as quickly as you can.
So, question number 1: were you a spin-based, a power-based, or in between?
None of them.
That's what I thought. I was trying to think of a different way to ask that question.
Yeah.
But tell us your style quickly for the younger viewers.
Very close to the table, taking the ball off the bounce, both sides.
Perfect. So you already answered question number 2. You took the ball early. So I'll move to question 3. What was the most effective or your strongest stroke?
Probably backhand block.
Down the line. Least effective or weakest stroke?
Forehand topspin.
It wasn't that bad.
From any player, the one stroke you wish you had?
Probably to play high balls. It was rubbish.
Your best or favourite serve that you used?
Mainly backhand chop, backhand side, short and tight.
The best server you ever received against?
Jesus. Possibly Chen Xinhua.
Yeah.
Your favourite opponent type? A defender, spinny player, a fellow blocker, or a power player?
Oh God! The people who play away from the table, who need a lot of time.
And your least favourite opponent type?
Oh, people like your Dvoraceks. They're just big, long arms and just slow and keep getting the ball back. You can't find a way through them.
The best player you ever played against?
Possibly Guihua.
Yeah.
The victory that gave you the most pleasure?
European top 12.
I'm going to change up question number 12 just because I think, just based on the question, but Dave is a captain of your team. He's NPCing. You get to pick 4 other players, not including yourself, male or female, into your team. Who are you going to have from around the world?
Oh, bloody hell.
That's on the spot.
I don't know many world ladies. I'll take Jill Parker.
Yeah.
I'll take Vrisa Coop. That's 2, yeah. And I got 2 more left.
Yes.
I'll probably take Waldner and possibly Persson.
Perfect. And is it okay to have Dave as the NPC, or do you want to replace him?
No, Dave's fine.
Yeah.
Very diplomatic. Well done. Elisa, back to you.
There's another YouTube question from Kieran Walker. When you moved to Germany, what was the difference between there and the UK in terms of coaching, club setup, practice, and competitive play?
I would say everything was more professional. better organized, and it's done in the German way. Everything's, you know, spot on. The practice to be there on time, everything. It's just spot on, and the practice is a high quality, you know, good quality practice on a regular basis, and you're preparing in the right way for the match to perform, you know, at a very high level, and I think that's helped me, and it showed in my performances.
Can we stick with YouTube, Lisa?
Yeah. And there's another one. Is it true you used a butterfly Kenny blade for years when so-called better blades were available? And what do you think of the modern equipment available today?
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. What happened was I started off with a Maelstrom. It was Melis Steger blade. I broke it playing doubles with Dennis. I went to a Kenny blade and I had it for many, many years. And Applegreen told me it was a children's blade, and broke it. And everybody told me, look, it's broken. Can't you feel the vibration? I couldn't feel the vibration, but I love the bat so much.
Yeah.
And then one day I was playing in the English final against Prino. I went to play a backhand. The racket, the head flew off. I still had the handle. And that's because I didn't listen to the people who told me it was broken. Then I thought, I'm finished. I can't play again. I can't use another bat. But I could, but not to the same way I used the Kenny. I had it for many, many years. I thought it's like breaking my arm. I thought I was finished. So yeah, very sad that I broke the Kenny. And there's the other question. Sorry.
Yeah, on that blade. So when you did change, Des, did you adapt to your new blade quite quickly, or was it just never the same?
I didn't have much time because I was playing in the final, and then the next match, me and Alan Cook had to play in the final. I had to use a new Kenny.
Yeah.
The wood was so hard,
and
I was struggling to play. Alan was giving me the confidence to say, you know, just get the ball back. But it was so hard because my mind was still with a broken wood.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these players who likes to keep changing. I probably only had about maybe 4 rackets in my life.
Wow.
Once I have something, I'll keep it. I don't like changing my clothes. I don't like new shirts because the starch. I always want the old ones because it's ironed and it's not itchy.
Yeah.
So when I have something, I want to keep it. I don't like all the new stuff.
No.
But this is the way.
When that day you'd broken your bat, but in future weeks and future months, did you adjust to a new blade, or was it just never the same?
It took me a while.
Yeah.
Because you tend to look for the tendencies you had in your broken bat, which you'll never get them again. You've got to say, look, this is what I've got. Let's just deal with it. And so Nicky Mason, I was playing National League. Nicky Mason said, have a go with this bat, this Steger Mark 5. Yeah. So I just thought, with all the problems I was having, I just picked it up. I just played with it like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah.
I beat Graham Sandley easier than when I had the Kenny. So I said to Mace, I'll swap you. And we did a deal. He gave me the wood. Yeah. And so I had that wood since. Yeah, I just kept it ever since. So yeah.
I think that's a fantastic story of players I grew up with their equipment, changing equipment.
Yeah.
The thought that goes into blades. I just think it's an absolute classic of that. Sometimes it's not the equipment. It's hard work.
Yeah. Elisa, any more on YouTube? If not, a question from yourself.
The second part of that question was, what do you think of the modern equipment today?
I think the carbons, they're so quick, and it's for the bigger ball. So I suppose unless you're using a carbon, you're at a slight disadvantage because of it's so quick, and with the rubbers as well being quick, the carbon seems to work better with a bigger ball. But I'm not a fan of these new things. I like to stick with what I know. I'm old school, so I'm saying if it isn't broken, then why change it? But the only thing is, it's the firepower. You see, you're losing out on the firepower. They can hit the ball so much harder and quicker than you. It was a similar thing when I won the top 12. I won the top 12 playing with Chak. Chak is just what you stick the glue on, the rubber with. Everybody had the speed glue. So their bats were like rockets. Mine was like a pea shooter. So it was so much harder to win the points.
Yeah. I mean, Des, on that was actually one of my questions about speed glue. in the sort of early 90s and obviously affecting it. And it's fascinating to hear that obviously you just played with normal chack, but obviously the boosting is the modern term that we're using now. But how much do you think it changed or spoiled the game in the early mid-90s towards it, or trying to get a control of how fast the game was?
Well, I suppose it's adapting to the new tools that are coming in. If somebody's got a faster racket, unless you do the same, you're going to be underpowered. That's where the disadvantage, and that's what changes sport. It could be golf. Everybody's playing with another club now that can hit the ball further.
Yeah.
And so unless you keep up with these changes, you're going to be at a disadvantage. I think for me, it should be like tennis. Everybody plays with the same racket. Then with the man or woman with the most skill wins. No argument. Once you start bringing all these different rackets and different rubbers, it makes it very complicated.
So on that, do you like ping pong? The sort of rise of ping pong?
No, sandpaper. That's for sandpapering the wood. If it was that with the Victor Barner with the pimpled rubber, that's not so bad. But they're going to the extreme, sandpaper.
Yeah. So basically, the same racket for everyone, same rubber, same blade, but still sponge table tennis.
Yes, just like tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah, have we got any more from the chat line, Lisa?
No, that's all.
No,
okay, have you got another question for Des?
So see how you play left-handed. When you started playing kind of more serious tournaments and matches, did you feel you had an advantage playing left-handed or a disadvantage, or did it not affect you at all?
No, it didn't affect me. People said I had an advantage because there wasn't so many lefties. When I started, there wasn't many lefties. So to come up against a lefty was really unusual. But later on, there was more lefties, but you still have the same complaint. It's difficult for us because there's not many left-handers, but you could say the same with us playing a righty. It's just getting used to it, that's all. It shouldn't really make that much difference.
Okay, I believe we've had another couple on YouTube while you've asked that.
Yeah. So from Peter Lugton, after playing on grandstand, did you get noticed in the street a lot?
Yes, I did. You do, because TV exposes you, doesn't it? And so wherever you go, if they follow the sport, you get recognised, and if you're successful, even more recognised. But I don't want to be someone like a David Beckham. I would hate it. I prefer someone more like a Paul Scholes, because he goes about his business, he does the job, he can walk down the street, no grief. Beckham can't go anywhere. I wouldn't like my life to be like that. Yeah. So that's the other extreme.
Yeah. I mean, if I could, just before the next question, Elise, I mean, when you were at your best, table tennis was on mainstream television a lot more, wasn't it, Des? We had the was it similar to Pot Black?
Yes, that's right. Like a top table thing. The
Masters, top table was on once a week. Yes. The English close was always on. The English, and I'm not talking about Sky Channel 53. It was on mainstream television, wasn't it?
That's
so right. Des was very much a recognised face at the time. Right, Elisa, YouTube's taking over, so we better let Vic have it.
Yeah, another one from Kieran. Does Desmond still play table tennis regularly nowadays?
Yes, today I was just having a hit with Megan Jones over at Albrighton today, because she couldn't find anywhere to play in the Midlands. So yes, I still play quite regularly. Maybe 2 or 4 times a week, probably.
Yeah, that's all from YouTube.
Mark, back to you.
1988 Olympics, Des. I think obviously going to that, obviously being Olympian, but the stranger is obviously Skylar Andrew, your doubles partner. And one of the questions that obviously has come up when we're left-handers are 2 left-handers playing doubles together. So it's almost a triple whammy of playing doubles with a left-hander. It's the 88 Olympics, and how did you find that whole experience?
Well, going towards the competition before the Olympics to qualify, me and Sky, we had some very, very good wins. I think we beat Primorac and Lupu. We had some really good wins to qualify. And even when we qualified, I didn't know that we qualified. I thought we had another game. And I think this chap, Mr. Christie, he was coaching us from Scotland. And Sky was jumping up and down. I says, why are you jumping? We've got another game. He says, we've qualified. I didn't know we qualified. But going to Seoul, really unusual experience, because you're sharing the tournament with other sports, which had never been done before. You saw a very young Tim Henman, Jeremy Bates. You saw Ben Johnson, Carl Lewis, Linford, Daley Thompson. So it was really strange mixing with those guys in the sports village. As far as the lefty goes, normally it's a bad combination because of the service line, the way it goes, you see. But me and Sky, because I could play with my backhand, he could play with his forehand. That service line helps the lefty. And the best combination really is a lefty and a righty because of the service line. But yeah, we just used it to our advantage, really. Me with my backhand and him with his forehand. And it worked well. We had a good tournament.
Brilliant.
Okay, Des, then obviously you're still active, you still play. You and I ran a coaching course together only two years ago. And you played for probably 75% of the weekend actually on the table. How are you enjoying that side of it, helping others rather than being the player? Did you quite enjoy the coaching side of it and the practice side of it?
I think nothing beats playing because you're in control. When you're a coach, you're sort of like an advisor and helping people sort out their problems, which can be a problem for you as well. But no, I'm giving something back to the game. I'm trying to help people to sort of become slightly better and try to get them to play in a slightly better way and think about what they're doing a little bit more. So that is satisfying, but in another way, it's quite difficult because you can't sort out everybody's problems.
I mean, and what I would say, and obviously you and I have worked together quite a few times, you seem to be very patient with people who can't play. You don't say, well, I'm brilliant. And, you know, when we was working together 2 years ago, there was a wide range of standards. You played with everybody on the course, which was all 18. They all moved around and had the practice with you. And you seem to give the same amount of attention to the very weakest players as you did the best players. How did you manage to keep that composure?
Because when I started to play, I knew how difficult it was for me, and I didn't get that sort of coaching, that sort of support. So I know what it was like, all the problems that they're going through. So I thought, right, let's try to help them the best way I can and encourage them. Don't criticize them, because we all make mistakes. But my thing is, if they're getting more balls on the table than what they're missing, or making less mistakes, then you've done a good job. And so that's my idea. I never want to discourage them. Always encourage them and be positive, and let them think that they're doing their best.
Okay, I just want to go back to just that we sort of moved naturally onto that. How many years were you in Germany, and then what made you come home?
I was there for 8 years in the Bundesliga. Wow. We won, out of the 8 years, we won the Bundesliga 5 times. I think we were in the European Cup a couple of times. I thought in the end, the traveling was catching up with me. You know, when you've got to travel 4 hours in Germany, it's a long way. And then you've got to come home, training camp, European League, Foreign Open. You imagine doing that, year in, year out. It starts to tire you out. So I just thought, I just couldn't continue anymore. And when I told the club, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't understand why I wanted to leave, because they were so successful. But for me, it was just catching me up. And I think if I didn't do that, I don't think I would have won something like the top 12.
Sure,
because it gave myself, my body a chance to recharge. And so it was a difficult decision, but I just thought, for me, I did as much as I could do for them. And for me, it was time to move on. And I feel in my heart, it was better for me to tell them rather than they're saying to you, you're playing bad now, you're not good enough. I want to be the one who makes the decision.
Yeah.
And I've left on a good note, and
Right.
I feel very very happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, to the viewers, if you go to Dusseldorf now, Des is worship there. It's idolized even today. It really is. Which also brings me to, so you've left Germany. Who are your teammates while you was at Germany? Some household names that the viewers will know?
I played at one, Ralph Vosik,
Yeah,
Torben
yeah.
Vosik's brought 2, Hans Nolten 3,
Yeah, wow.
Hanno Deutz 4. I think you would know this guy. Jürgen Herold was 5.
Yeah.
And the first year, the great Ebby Scholler played at number 6.
You're kidding.
Yes.
Got to the world final.
Yes, in 69. He was never number 6, but he played at number 6 for a season.
Yeah.
So that was unbelievable. And just to practice with him and be with him and speak to him and his wife, Dairo, it was fantastic. Correct. So for me, in some ways, it was like being in England because everybody spoke very good English.
Yeah. And yet, I think at the time, Des, you played, and I don't know whether it's changed, there was only allowed one foreigner, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but Carl Preen played as a German. So that made, didn't he? He actually got a German passport. So when he went to Germany, they was effectively allowed two foreigners. Yeah. So it was one foreigner per team.
Correct. Yeah. And Dave, the first year I went, I think it was just me and probably another English player. The second year, all the national team came and played in Germany. Wow. Nicky, Linda Jarvis, Jill Hammersley, Paul Day. Everybody was playing in Germany.
Yeah.
So,
and then in later years, you played in the British National League, didn't you, when you came back? Was it mainly for Market Drayton?
I started off at Bathwick Tyres.
That's right.
Then I went to Market Drayton for a while, 5-6 years, good years. Then I went to France, Rouen, for a few years. Then came back and I played for Keith Wilson at Durham.
Yeah, you did.
Darlington, So those were my teams, really. So that was when I was coming to the end of my career. I played in '94 Europeans in Birmingham. Played very well against Digny, lost 3-2.
Yeah.
Then they wanted me to go to Tianjin as a coach, really, not really to play.
Yeah.
Prino kept saying he was injured, and I had to play. So I end up playing in Tianjin most matches, and I beat Lu Guoliang. Guoliang, which was ridiculous. Nobody could believe I beat Lu Guoliang, but I think there it was just a clash of styles, and he hadn't seen me. Yeah. So for me to come out of retirement to beat Lu Guoliang was fantastic.
It was one. I love Shenzhen. I was at that tournament. It was fantastic. It was just fantastic.
Oh, so
right now we've come to, wow, this has been marvelous. Elisa, come on. You got Mark and Elisa. You've got one big. Well, first of all, is there anything left on YouTube?
No.
Good. Well, Elisa, this is your last question you're going to ask Des.
There's just a question coming from YouTube.
Oh, go on, take it then.
So you visited North Ayrshire Table Tennis Club in 2006. Would you consider returning for our 20th anniversary next year? People still talk about the visit to Inverclyde, as you played every player there last time.
God, I can't remember that. God, was that where I played a very young Christopher Wheeler? He could just about see over the table.
Yeah.
It was very, very young, and they had the bagpipes. The guys were there playing the tunes, and I think I did a coaching session up there. I think that's the one. I'm not sure.
If you struggled with my accent at the start, Des, you definitely wouldn't have understood anyone there.
No. The people I struggle with is Alex Ferguson and Kenny Dalglish. I've got to really listen.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would. I don't know. I'd have to see what I'm doing next year. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get you up, Des. We'll get you up.
Tour of Scotland.
Des, I mean, we started this Zoomcast. As I say, our first Zoomcast was with the legendary Jill Parker. MBE, and we finished with Des Douglas MBE. So when were you awarded the MBE, Des?
Oh, gosh, was it
And what was it like?
87, 88?
Yeah.
To meet the Queen was very. I thought it was a wind up at first.
Did you?
I was in. I think I was somewhere in Germany, and I read it in the paper, but I thought it was a wind up. And so when they asked me, I thought don't be stupid, you know. And then they said, no, this is the Palace. It's serious.
Yeah.
And then my heart was pumping.
Yeah.
And then when I decided to go to the Palace, you're in this fantastic room, all massive paintings and golden frames, and this guy comes in with all his regalia and in sword, like a swordsman, and you know, he's telling us a protocol, what you have to do. And I was pumping. I was thinking, please, I don't want to be the first one. So when you see what the first people have to do, and you have to move forward 3 steps, bow, you're not supposed to speak unless you're spoken to. Yeah. You get your pins it on you, your beef eaters behind, 3 steps back, bow, turn. You've got to remember all that, but then it's a Queen you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's not like playing a table tennis match. You've got to remember everything and just be very, very composed. And you're only allowed to talk when you're spoken to.
Yeah.
So, you know,
was
yes,
it
Mom.
more nervous than playing in the European top 12?
Oh, yeah, every time. It's a Queen. You don't see the Queen every day. So, yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic experience. Great day out, yeah.
Brilliant. Right, did you get your last question in, Mark? Can't remember now.
No, but maybe just my last question is maybe at the end of Des's career about playing in that England team in the 90s and the 94 in Birmingham, going to Tangent. Do you think that kept going longer because it was such a good team? Alan Cook, Carol Preen, young Matthew Syed, Chen Xinghua. Did that keep you going, or did you feel like it was maybe time to stop with these players coming up?
No, I stopped in '89 at the Worlds in Dortmund.
Right.
And then I played club table tennis up till '94. But because I played so well in Birmingham in '94, they said, could I come to Tianjin? Yeah. Because I think Matthew or Alex Perry, one of those guys, couldn't play. So that's the only reason why I went. Otherwise, I'd probably still be in retirement.
Yeah, so it was just actually by chance it sort of
Yes.
Yeah,
I was playing club table tennis, but I wasn't playing international. That's a big jump, especially when you've left it for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So that was the only reason why I came back.
And when did you finish playing club table tennis, Des?
I played in France 95, 97. And then the next 2 years, something like 99, 2000, I played for Keith Wilson up at Darlington, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's probably when I stopped.
Yeah. And I know he's listening in, but Pete Lugden, who sort of helped to put this together, another left-hander, he played against you that day. Yeah, when you played against the drum, I think. So mentioned there for Pete. Des, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been fantastic to get this insight, right from your very first hit to obviously winning the top 12, world number 7. We've had loads of questions on YouTube. The chat line's been going mad. And what we do now is we just say goodbye and we just have a little private chat. So thank you, Elisa. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matthew. And a massive thanks to our European top 12 winner, world number 6, number 7, MBE, Desmond Douglas. Thank you.